Mic check, check one, check two. All right, we're gonna start off a little low. Shout out to table 4. I see the attention. All right, I'm gonna call out table by table. Table 3. All right, I see table 3 holding it down with the attention. We're gonna get things started. If we can wrap up our conversations and end our meals, I'm gonna revert back to my old ways. If you can hear me, clap once. If you can hear me, clap 3 times. If you can hear me, say, okay. The dinner energy is still there, but I need a deeper resonating okay. If you can hear me, say, okay. All right, just in the back. If you're in the back and you can hear me, say, okay. All right, shout out to the people in the back. Wow, what a meal, what a meal. Thank you all thank you to the people who prepared the meal, to the people who served the meal, and to the people who cleaned up after we ate. Please give a round of applause to the staff. Thank you, really, really thank you. Now, I have the honor, sorry, there's a little feedback. There we go. I work with microphones all the time, I should know what I'm doing. Now on to our Pro Bono Awards. Please welcome to the stage Crisel Raguro, Director of Pro Bono and Strategic Partnerships. Crisel.
Thank you, Pendarvis. Each year, over 1,000 pro bono volunteers dedicate tens of thousands of hours to LCCR-SF, a tremendous contribution that makes our work possible. Our pro bono partners are at the heart of our mission. And tonight, we are honored to celebrate an exceptional group of individuals whose dedication and commitment have made a lasting impact on our work and the communities we serve. Before we bring them to the stage, I'm excited to share a video highlighting the incredible work of tonight's awardees and the impact they've made.
For 5 decades, the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights of the San Francisco Bay Area has led the fight for racial, economic, and immigrant justice, staying at the forefront of change through groundbreaking litigation, bold policy advocacy, free legal services, and impactful storytelling. We align our legal expertise with the needs of grassroots movements to foster resilience, equity, and justice.
The asylum program vets cases. They have often experienced unspeakable traumas in their countries of origin that have necessitated them to seek asylum in this country. Then we work with individual law firms to partner on those cases.
During my first year as an associate, we had a case that had been with the firm for many, many years. So that case was an individual who had identified as transgender and had suffered a series of very violent attacks based on their identity.
We finally had success in a grant of permanent protection from deportation for our client.
She was so excited. We were in the courtroom. The judge was excited, and she came around. She gave everybody a hug, and it was just really exciting to see. We'd put in so much work.
One of the incredible aspects of working with Morrison Foerster was the really holistic approach that they took to client representation. Throughout that process, a human being has different and varying needs, and Morrison Foerster met those clients' needs at every turn.
The individual had previously stopped their transition due to the number of violent encounters that they had in their past, in their home country. After they won their case, they were able to access benefits that allowed them to begin looking into the transition process again and living authentically as themselves. As an immigrant myself and a queer person, working with communities that don't have access to the benefits that I'm afforded here is incredibly impactful. And as a first year, I didn't have as much direct contact with clients, and working with this client directly and really getting a chance to do a lot of the substantive work was just really, really meaningful for me and really important in my development as well.
In this case, we represented 3 father-son pairs who were separated at the border And this case was about obtaining monetary compensation for the harms that they suffered. We used the Federal Tort Claims Act, the FTCA, which allows plaintiffs to sue the federal government under state tort laws.
The emotional stakes for them of having their stories told before somebody that they've never met before, aka a judge, and to demand accountability from an entity that is a million times bigger than them. It's the United States government, and that takes guts and it takes courage. And the Pillsbury team were constantly reassuring our clients that their courage would not be in vain.
Our clients came to the United States. They are indigenous Guatemalans. They spoke only their indigenous languages of Quechua and Mam. When they were apprehended at the border, arrested, booked, and detained in what were known as hileras or ice boxes because of how frigid they were. Then forcibly separated, children put in one cage and the adults packed into another. One pair that I represented was separated for 9 months, and much of that time, neither father nor son had any knowledge of whether their family member was even still alive.
A large law firm was throwing their weight behind their case, and that just made them feel like their voices were amplified even louder.
There's no dollar amount that can undo the experience and undo the trauma, especially for the children. But these settlements will help these families move forward in a way they absolutely could not have without the money.
This case and all family separation FTCA damages cases were fundamentally cases of reparations. Those people successfully came out of that situation with their lives, and they came out of that situation with the gusto to force the government to take accountability for its actions.
You see on their faces that they almost can't believe that someone is working for them and fighting for them, like for a long time, for years.
It is so powerful to stand behind a client and see them magnify their own humanity. I mean, it's healing for yourself, it is healing for the other person, and it will help you grow in professional ways and personal ways.
Legal Services for Entrepreneurs is a program part of Lawyers Committee that matches small business owners in the Bay Area with attorneys at no cost to the business owner to prevent displacement and contribute to economic justice.
The small business owners I've worked with are the same people that I interact with every day. The ones who make my morning coffee, cut my kids' hair, or dry clean our clothes. But on the surface, you wouldn't guess that they may be navigating legal issues, dilemmas. But working with the LSC has widened my perspective in that sense, that the law isn't just about creating frameworks for corporations. It quietly shapes how you and I act and interact every day. I like to think that our work is an invisible thread that helps hold it all together.
These clients have built their businesses from the ground up. They are not helpless and they are not afraid to stand up for themselves. So attorneys like Eugene are able to represent these small business owners so they can go on to create self-sustainability.
Small business is not just commerce, it's connection, the heartbeat of an ecosystem. They're what give neighborhoods their character. And as an attorney, I like to think that in some small way, I've helped nurture this ecosystem.
You're not only representing the business or the individual, you're representing their families, their neighborhoods, their kids. You will be an attorney for a real person and carry on that goodwill, and that goodwill spreads throughout the community.
You're connecting with people who need solutions they can actually use right there and then. It's the kind of work where your expertise doesn't just sit in a document. It unlocks opportunities that would otherwise stay out of reach.
That Start Small, Think Big. We are a nonprofit organization supporting entrepreneurs throughout the nation, and we are able to coordinate one-on-one opportunities for small businesses to meet with attorneys and finance experts who can help folks expand and grow their business.
Start Small, Think Big has been working with LSC for a number of years now, and in the past year we decided to launch the Immigrant Business Legal Series together, and the Juneteenth
legal series, we wanted to focus in particular on communities that are often most marginalized and often under-resourced.
The immigrant business legal series, for example, we focused on language access. We understood that it was important for folks to have legal language in their native language. And then for the Juneteenth legal series, we highlighted specific legal hurdles, for example, access to capital. Unfortunately, Black entrepreneurs and immigrant communities have often been left out of access to capital. Thankfully, our financial program at Start Small has the access to our CDFI partners who provide resources and information about how to access capital.
For both our Immigrant Business Legal Series and our Juneteenth Legal Series, we offered the legal clinic where folks were able to meet one-on-one with an attorney and get their legal questions answered.
Not only to empower entrepreneurs, but to continue to build more inclusive economies, creating long-lasting impact for underserved communities.
After the brutal murder of George Floyd in 2020, Sacramento became a hotbed of protests from Black Lives Matter and other racial justice advocates trying to push for transformative change within the police department, both in Sacramento and across the country. The protests that arose out of that were faced with brutal violence by the Sacramento Police Department. And what we saw thereafter during the 2020 election is that there were Stop the Steal protesters, far-right protesters, that were not being treated the same way, that were being protected by the police. And this case is really about exposing the violence that the Sacramento Police Department subjected racial justice protesters to, and ensuring that there are changes to policies to make sure that that sort of discrimination doesn't happen again.
We needed to design a statistical sample and a coding scheme to analyze the body camera footage from those two protests that had been submitted by the Sacramento Police Department.
NERA was able to take hundreds of hours of body-worn camera footage from the Sacramento Police Department and show through statistics this fact that there was disproportionate violence, use of force, discriminatory treatment against racial justice protesters as compared to far right-wing protesters.
We developed codes to analyze systematically the types of events that were occurring in these videos, so different types of police force being used at these protests. Once we created that data set, we could run statistical tests to evaluate whether there was a difference in the use of police force at these two types of protests.
There was less than 2 months that we had to go from first looking at these videos to creating the report, and they worked with us tirelessly, day by day to make sure that everything was done both quickly and effectively.
The Sacramento Police Department had argued that part of the explanation for differential rates of force was that protester behavior at these events differed. And I had a deposition, and I was able to explain the data that we had and the analysis we created with statistical precision and reliability to say you can't explain away the differential use of force because of protester response.
This case is a perfect example of the broader mission of Lawyers Committee, which is fighting against injustice and ensuring that people have the right to speak up, fight for what they believe in, and expose abuses of power.
We don't often have the opportunity to work on cases that are both so local and so meaningful in terms of their potential impact in terms of social justice.
If you're hesitant at all about whether or not you should take on one of these cases, I'm here to reassure you that you definitely should.
Pro bono work is different. You see the results up close. A business gets off the ground, or a struggling owner avoids a costly mistake.
Lawyers need to rely on evidence and storytelling And people like us and from organizations like ours can really help contribute to that.
I myself, as a formally undocumented person, had to be the one to help my parents navigate systems, especially legal systems. And I wanted to be able to ensure that as a person who has and can navigate some of these systems, be able to help others go through that process.
When we see injustices, there is a way to fight back, and we should fight back.
At Lawyers Committee, we know that justice is not a static goal. It's a journey. And with the strength of our clients, our pro bono partners, and volunteers, we will continue to walk this path. With those now in power actively attacking civil rights, particularly those of immigrants, our work is more critical than ever. Our communities need to know they can count on us. Help us meet this need by continuing to support Lawyers Committee. We can't do this work without you.
Our first award is the Father Cucullin Moriarty Award. The Father Cucullin Moriarty Award is presented for advancing immigrant justice through extraordinary pro bono contributions. It is my absolute honor to recognize Morrison Foerster for the firm's outstanding work to secure wins for vulnerable clients in immigration court. Morrison Foerster's commitment to these clients and excellent legal work has changed their lives for the better. Accepting the award on behalf of MoFo are Anel Becerra Rodriguez, Tatiana Del Cid, Kenneth A. Kuwaiti, Bonnie Lau, Stella Mao, Mo Mrasan, Gary Stenger, Margaret A. Webb, and Rachel Williams. The Jack W. London Award is presented to a pro bono partner for exemplary efforts that protect and advance the civil rights of marginalized communities. This year's award recognizes NERA for its extraordinary data analysis and expert report for our White v. Sacramento litigation, which argues that the Sacramento Police Department used differential force against Black Lives Matter protesters as compared to Stop the Steal protesters. Here to receive the award are Sarah Butler, Matthew Planese, and Amelia Says. I'm honored to present the Anthony F. Logan Award for outstanding contributions by a community partner to public interest law and our client communities to start small, think big, and specifically to Crystal Jones, who is an instrumental partner to the Economic Justice team. Their partnership and advocacy have helped our team expand programming for immigrant and Black-owned businesses through legal education, webinars, and one-on-one attorney support. The Robert G. Sproul Jr. Award recognizes outstanding pro bono support to advance civil rights of underrepresented communities. It is my honor to present the 2025 award to Dustin Chase Woods, Chris Garza Estrada, Blaine Green, and Carolina Stiles of Pillsbury Winthrop Shaman Pittman. The Pillsbury team, with LCCRSF as co-counsel, represented 3 families separated at the border. Finally, the James T. Kalashu Award recognizes extraordinary pro bono contributions to the Lawyers Committee Legal Services for Entrepreneurs program. I'm thrilled to present this year's award to Eugene Kang and Stephen Gillespie of Wilmer Hale, who have dedicated over 100 pro bono hours to the LSC program, assisting 8 small business owners and entrepreneurs. Let's give them all a final round of applause. This work is a true community effort. Clients, staff, organizers, pro bono attorneys, paralegals, law clerks, interpreters, donors, funders, coalition partners, and policymakers all play a vital role. Thank you to everyone on the front lines and behind the scenes who fuels the change we are achieving together. Next, I'm pleased to introduce board member Tyrion Steinbeck.
Thank you. Thank you. I love you, Savala. We are so lucky we get to hear from you tonight. We all need this. It's actually, these lights are very bright. I'm glad I'm sparkling. Any opportunity to bedazzle. And any opportunity right now to come together in community. It's hard for me to see you all out here, but this is the legal community that I've been part of for over a quarter of a century, and it's amazing to be here with you all tonight, and to be here on behalf of the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights. Thurgood Marshall once said, "Democracy cannot flourish amid fear. Liberty cannot bloom amid hate. Justice cannot take root amid rage. America must get to work. We must dissent from the apathy. We must dissent from the fear, the hatred, and the mistrust. We must dissent from the poverty of vision and the absence of moral leadership. We must dissent because America can do better, because America has no choice but to do better." This, being here tonight, is part of how we do better. It's a start. But I'm up here tonight to invite you to go deeper and to deepen your investment in the LCCR and the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights, an organization that has and will continue to stand up and speak out for the causes, communities, and clients that have been pushed to the margins, those who have been denied basic human rights, who have been scapegoated for all of societal's ills, problems that we know, those of us in this room know, were not caused by the descendants of enslaved people. Problems that were not caused by immigrants or people living in poverty or folks just trying to live and love authentically. They were not even caused by coastal liberals like ourselves. We know that that's not who benefits tremendously from today's chaos and division and inequality and deep distrust of democratic institutions. It's clearer every day that this is not who benefits from the dismantling of democracy. Tomorrow there's going to be an economic blackout. It's a chance, and I invite you all to participate in it. It's a way to show what it means for people of goodwill to refuse to participate just for one day in what has become unfettered and unprincipled capitalism as it's being demonstrated today and marched across our news feeds every day right now. And instead, I invite you to spend your money right now, tonight. I'm serious. I actually am inviting you to get out your credit cards right now, or your phones. Actually, easier to get out your phones. And support the Thurgood Marshall Fellowship. This fellowship is a training ground for visionary new lawyers, and it's an investment in the future of civil rights leaders, the kind of advocates we desperately need today. We are in strange and scary times. Can I get an amen that we are in strange and scary times? I mean, I actually will invite you, some of you are my former students, I invite you to shake it a little bit off tonight. We are here in community because we are in strange and scary times, and we need community. That is what will save us. Nothing else will save us but community and people standing up for the law and the power of law. As an early target of the attacks on history, truth, facts, science, civil rights, diversity, equity, and inclusion, I know personally how terrifying it is to be caught in the crosshairs of this unholy war on decency and democratic principles. It's understandable that some of us have been stunned into silence. It's understandable that we've been overwhelmed by the daily onslaught of horribles. It's reasonable that we have, some of us, contracted in. And now it's time to take a breath and expand out again. We need to take up space. We need to be in community. We need to be bold, brave, and zealous advocates. And we need to support a future that we want to see and the beautiful, bold, bountiful, beloved community that we want to be. This is time to start tonight to do that. And one way to do that is to invest in this fellowship and this incredible organization that's working every day for equality, justice, and liberty. I am not asking you to give what is comfortable tonight. I'm asking you to stretch and give what is meaningful tonight. What wouldn't you give for equality, justice, and liberty? What wouldn't you give to invest in the people who will need to be fighting for this into our future, who will be there and carry the legacy of so many of our fellows at the Lawyers Committee and the people that inspired them, including Thurgood Marshall? What wouldn't you give? We hope tonight to raise $30,000 more for this fellowship, and we in this room can afford to give that tonight. So I invite you to take out your phone. There's a QR code on your table. And because as a teacher, I always loved for interactive things, give money and then turn to someone at your table and tell them why you just invested more in this organization. Tell them why you are here tonight. Not just because we get to see each other and be in community, because we are invested in what this organization stands for. So we're going to give you a couple minutes now to do just that, to take out your phone, take out that QR code, be proud that you are able to be here to give and that you're a part of this community. I feel honored that I get to support this work every day. So I hope you will join me in that honor and get to it. Thank you. All right. Okay, we're doing good. We're getting close to the goal. If you haven't given already, please do so now. Give like you care about justice. Keep it coming. I want to thank you all. We have exceeded our goal. Thank you. This is our community. This is the people we turn to remind us what we value. This is the community that will support the work we need to do. I want to thank you all for being such a tremendous and generous part of this community. Thank you so much. Take care.
One more time, round of applause for Tyrion. Thank you. Thank you. You got up here and you taught a whole lecture. That was a class. Lessons on capitalism and how it's really impacting us and the necessity for community at a time like this. I really appreciate that reminder, so thank you. Thank you to everyone who donated. Round of applause to yourself for making that happen in that short amount of time. And now, it is time for the final award of our evening, our keynote Living the Dream Award. This award is given to individuals who not only carry forward the activism and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., but who expand and fuel social justice movements through their unique contributions and envision a radical future, a radical, audacious future of liberation. And, this is important, the path to get there. Here to introduce this year's incredibly special awardee is the Executive Director of Lawyers Committee, Bianca Sierra Wolf.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight, and thank you for helping us surpass our goal. Thank you. I think I'm going to sleep slightly better tonight, so thank you all. Gathering in this room of 600 plus of LCCR SF's strongest supporters is a testament to our long history of fighting for liberation, for the marginalized, and for our Black and immigrant community members. As the daughter of 2 Mexican immigrants, I can't help but feel that being here tonight and speaking to all of you is an act of resistance against our current political climate. Both my parents came here at very young ages, my father as young as 12, with very limited resources and community. Strangers in this land, they worked hard and faced countless acts of racism and discrimination to build a better life for their children. If I am here tonight as the Executive Director of LCCR SF, it is because of the strength and resilience that my parents had when they came to this country. Like so many of your own ancestors, they dared to hope for a better future, in part fueled by the many sacrifices their ancestors made to get them to this country. It is why we find so much comfort and hope in the teachings of the great Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., whose legacy we celebrate tonight. His life is a testament to the ability to persevere and transcend despite enormous backlash and oppression. While many saw his brilliance during his lifetime and believed in his vision for the future, an equal amount feared him, so much so that his life was tragically cut short.
but still his teachings have persisted, endured, and inspired millions. Since January, each day has brought a new executive order and a sense that all of our programs at LCCRSF, immigrant justice, racial justice, and economic justice, as well as fundamental beliefs about fairness and justice, are under attack. And yet every day, LCCRSF's amazing staff has shown up to work, ready and willing to fight. Similarly, our clients and community go to work, take their kids to school, and pray that they will survive. I believe that we find strength in the memories and teachings of our ancestors who faced slavery, persecution, racism, discrimination, and violence, because they dared to believe a better day would come, perhaps not in their lifetime, but in the lifetime of future generations. As Dr. King so famously said, we shall overcome, because the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. I have no idea what the future will bring, but I do know that no matter what, LCCRSF will continue to fight in honor of Dr. King's teachings and legacy. We will let our ancestors guide us as we fight for a world where all individuals are free from fear and safe to live and thrive. And I hope that you will continue to stay with us in this fight, for we can't do it alone. And if we are to continue this fight against oppression and racism, we must lift up those courageous leaders who dare to speak out, who dare to dream, and who dare to show us that there is a better way. Just like our Living the Award honoree tonight, Savala Nolan. It is an absolute honor to introduce Savala Nolan, the Lawyers Committee 2025 Living the Dream Award recipient. Savala is the Executive Director of the Thelton E. Henderson Center for Social Justice at Berkeley Law, where she leads skill-building forums and lectures on the role of bias in lawyering. She spearheaded the creation of Berkeley Law's Race and Law concentration, endowed a racial justice fellowship, and has advised extensively on equity and inclusion. Savala is a powerful voice for social justice issues, including structural racism, understanding whiteness, and body politics. Her book, Don't Let It Get You Down, Essays on Race, Gender, and the Body, was shortlisted for the William Saroyan Prize. And if you haven't read it yet, you really should. And her second essay collection, Good Woman, is out in March 2026. Savala was also on the team behind the Peabody Award-winning NPR podcast, The Promise. Previously, Savala was Associate Director of the Damon J. Keats Center for Civil Rights in Detroit and practiced law at Kecker Van Nest and Peters right here in San Francisco. She clerked for the Sixth Circuit and in the Obama administration. One thing that truly sets Savala apart is her extraordinary ability to illuminate critical conversations about race, gender, class, and body politics in America. Drawing from her own lived experience, she exposes the myriad of ways that anti-Blackness operates and is perpetuated in our society. Through her work, she connects the past to the present and the personal to the political, offering insights that are as profound as they are urgent. Savala is a fierce advocate for social and racial justice and is unwavering in her celebration of Black joy and Black resistance. In her own words, she writes, "I came to see that defending my Black knowledge is paramount. I will not debate what I know to be true, because guarding the autonomy of my Black mind is the same as guarding my freedom." These words remind us of two essential truths as we navigate this challenging political moment. First, we must remain steadfast in our values and the knowledge that drives us. Guarding our autonomy to serve as forces for positive change, especially in the face of rising right-wing authoritarianism. And second, we must continue to center and follow the leadership of those most directly impacted by systemic injustice, respecting their knowledge and autonomy to guide the movement for racial and social justice. Thank you, Savala, for honoring us and accepting this award and being here tonight. And please, everyone, join me in giving Savala Nolan a warm welcome.
My goodness. Let me just get my remarks here. Thank you, Bianca, for that very generous and enthusiastic introduction. I wish you could, I don't know, accompany me around every day as I go about my business. Hello, everyone. Yes. Thank you to the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights for this honor. It is a joy to be in community with tonight's awardees and past awardees, and to celebrate LCCR's clients, staff, and board, and the pro bono volunteers and supporters who have built and safeguarded this organization for more than half a century. Under your leadership, in particular, Bianca, I'm inspired by your leadership. It's a blessing, most of all, to be here with my loved ones, including my colleagues from Berkeley Law. I adore you. My family, most especially my mom, Susie, and my daughter, Gemma. I'm so thankful for you both and for your love. My daughter actually helped me think about what I wanted to say tonight, and I asked her, if you were trying to inspire 600 people to be hopeful right now, what would you tell them? And wise child that she is, one of the things she said is, I would tell them to remember it's okay to ask for help. Yeah. I was asked to speak about tonight's theme, Freedom Bound. The first image that came to my mind when I read those words, Freedom Bound, was being 10 or 11 years old and watching Eyes on the Prize on PBS, sitting with my mom in our blue rental house in San Anselmo, and feeling very clearly and for the first time both reverence for what we Black people have created and offered to humanity. I think we're over-indexed there. And grief for what we have encountered and endured along the way. I understood that I, with my little life, my few decades, was part of this story, difficult, challenging story, whether I liked it or not. I didn't get to choose when I was born, or in what society, or with what kinds of identities. I only got to witness the complexities of the world and respond to them. I only got to work at fitting the joy and the sorrow together. Freedom bound is a striking phrase not only for how it reminds us that we are moving toward a clear goal, but for how, in a more literary sense, it pushes two opposing concepts together and forces them to coexist. On the one hand, we have freedom, individuality, self-expression, autonomy, being unfettered. And on the other, we have bound, held together, tied together, attached, interwoven, interdependent. And bound can also speak, of course, to duty and responsibility in ways that contrast sharply with our notions of freedom. We can be bound, for instance, to obey the law, such as Article 2 of the Constitution, which, for those who don't know, establishes the contours of executive power. It strikes me that we work in a profession of emphatic opposites. Defendants and plaintiffs, innocence and guilt, right and wrong, mercy and vengeance. We live in a time of emphatic opposites too. Billionaires swimming in indecent, vulgar levels of luxury, and 37 million children perhaps on the brink of losing health insurance. I did some back of the napkin math. I'm 44, so that's 2,300 children for every single day of my life. I'm going to quote Dr. King in a minute, and I always wonder if I should do that, because it's like, do you have the goods to back up quoting Dr. King? Like when you're watching American Idol or something, and the contestant is like, I'm going to sing Whitney Houston for you. It's like, are you sure? But this is a celebration of Dr. King in so many ways, so I'm going to go for it, and y'all are going to have my back. In the early 1960s, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King said he was called to be obedient to unenforceable obligations. Unenforceable obligations. It was kind of a throwaway line for him, like it was said in passing, and it's not one of his more quoted ideas, but it stuck with me, because what a masterful and fascinating way to articulate what it looks like to care about other people in practice. Because our basic obligations to each other, kindness, service, generosity, no one can make us do those things. Kindness is a moral and ethical charge, sure, but it isn't actually enforceable. If you want to be an obnoxious, nasty jerk, you can be an obnoxious, nasty jerk. No one can stop you. And in that sense, in a practical, nitty-gritty, daily life kind of way, the obligations we have toward each other as human beings are actually very often choices we have to make. We have to choose to be good to each other. Philosophers and sociologists debate whether people are basically generous or basically selfish, fundamentally self-interested or fundamentally wired for cooperation. Who knows? Either way, at this point in time, being good is a choice. If we're crappy and miserly at heart, then being good means swimming against the current of what we are. If we are thoughtful and communal at heart, which I believe we are, then being good to each other requires us to swim against the current of zero-sum hyper-individualism in our culture. Either way, we choose. A while back, I was speaking with Judge Thelton Henderson, who I love and adore, yes, about his work in Alabama in the early 1960s when he was employed by the Civil Rights Division of Bobby Kennedy's Department of Justice. He described being arrested in Alabama, seeing Black people beaten, facing deputized mobs of white Southerners who were enraged by the thought of Black freedom. Let me just pause here to emphasize that this is living memory. And he described one particular searingly hot day when Black people were attempting to register to vote. The county had intentionally slowed the registration process, so people stood waiting for hours and hours and hours in this blazing, humid Alabama heat. The clerk said that anyone who got out of line to use the bathroom or sit down for a moment or find a drink of water would have to get back at the end of the line, like they would lose their place. And a group of black children arrived with trays of paper cups filled with water to give the adults waiting in line. He noticed that they had their little toothbrushes and tubes of toothpaste in their pockets because they were prepared to be arrested and go to jail. They didn't get to give the water to the people waiting in line because a crowd of irate white folks intercepted the children and knocked the cups of water out of their hands. We don't choose the world we're born into, but we choose how we're going to show up. I asked Judge Henderson where he got the courage, personally, to leave California and work as a black lawyer in the authoritarian regime of the Jim Crow South with all the violence and terror. And he said, with a laugh and then seriousness, well, I didn't bring it with me. I learned it in the moment. He didn't bring his courage with him. He learned it in the moment. Or you might say he chose it in the moment. What a wise and wonderful message for this moment of precarity. We don't need to arrive at our battles filled with bravery. We just need to arrive. We can learn our courage as we go. We can choose courage moment to moment. No one can make us, of course. We can also choose immoral silence or compliance in advance or cowardice at an inflection point. But what a bad way to live. What a waste of our bigger and better instincts. What a waste of our liberty and our interconnection. We don't get to choose the world we are born into, and these are the days we've been given to live. There are no other days, just these ones. Let us choose carefully our response to the world. Let us fit together the sorrow and the joy. Thank you.
Oh, man. Whew. You know, I love a good story. But Savala, that story with the water, the image of people being hot, standing in line, fighting for the freedom that they should have been born with, and to see kids support them, and those kids even face the same oppression. Thank you for sharing that story. Savala, you are a light, and I'm so glad that you share your light with us. So thank you. This has been an amazing night. Great food, great company, great words. Thank you all for being here. This microphone just doesn't like me. I really want to continue that conversation about the role of community during this time. Don't let this conversation end here. When I walked into the room earlier, that gathering, there were so many smiles, so many hugs. People were talking loudly, boisterously. I'm like, oh, okay. I realized what I was walking into. There's benevolent energy here. This is a place to be at a time like this. So thank you all for being here. Thank you for sharing your benevolence with us. And keep that thing going. Yeah, you can clap for that. Clap for that. All right. Now for the real talk. A slight update to the funds raised tonight. We are at $38,500. Clap for that. You can applaud for that. And at the same time, again, keep that thing going. I'm a fan of inertia and momentum. Like, let's go. I think we can get to 40,000 by night's end. So please keep donating and keep fighting the fight. With that said, I want to thank you all, and you can tell I'm clearly inspired. A lot less nervous, but really I feel like I've settled in a community that is doing something, and that's really reassuring. For somebody who consumes the news constantly, to hear you all share your thoughts and the work that you're doing, I sincerely appreciate that. So I hope you feel as uplifted as I do, and we keep this all going, again, that inertia thing. And I want to point out that these name tags that we have, I will ask that as you leave, please set them outside on the counter. I've been told that you can actually take the flowers off the table if you want, but you have to leave the candles. So keep the internal light, leave the external light out there. Thank you. Again, my name is Pendarvis Harshaw. Thank you for joining us tonight. I hope you all have a great night. Last thing I will say, we're gonna do this again next year. Mark your calendars, February 12th, 2026. See you there. Have a good one.